The barrel of the Colt kissed my temple, hot from the shot that silenced the driver. My knees sank into the powdered earth, hands trembling over a Bible stained red, not with wine, but someone else's blood. The man holding the gun had eyes like burnt coal, emptied of grace, filled with something colder than vengeance. His breath was whiskey and sweat. "You're a man of God, right?" he growled. I nodded. My voice caught somewhere in my chest. "Then read," he said, tossing a leather-bound ledger at my feet. Pages flapped open like dying wings, numbers scrawled in code and crimson. The stagecoach still smoked behind us, wheels snapped like broken limbs. Coyote howls echoed through the canyon, distant but circling. "My name is Father Elijah Gray. I came to these territories to bury sinners. Today I think I met one hell-bent on unearthing something worse." I picked up the ledger with hands no longer sure they belonged to me. The wind curled around the canyon like it too wanted to read the pages, lifting them in flutters that made the bloodstains dance. Names, places, shipments, and something else. A pattern I recognized from the war. Codes used to move contraband beneath Union noses. I'd translated them once, for penance. He wanted me to do it again, but this time the penance would be someone else. "Tell me what it says," he snarled. "Awani." The sky was bleeding orange into rust, and the rock wall seemed to listen. I swallowed bile. "This ledger, it ties someone to Confederate gold smuggling," I whispered. His smile cracked across his face like dry leather. "No, preacher, it buries a goddamn empire." As twilight sank its claws into the canyon, he paced like a rattlesnake waiting for thunder. I leaned against the rock, ledger on my lap, translating with the fevered panic of a man diffusing dynamite. Each cipher cracked unveiled another name, another lie, another ledger entry that led to William Drayton, the tycoon who owned the rails, the towns, and half the damn West. My voice trembled as I read them aloud, each name making him tenser, more electric. "Drayton's men? They laundered war gold through church coffers," I muttered. He stopped pacing. The silence was colder than death. Then he whispered, "Keep going, Padre. We're not finished." And neither, I feared, was the dying. Night came with no stars, just smoke and the stink of old fire. He built a camp beneath an overhang of stone, dragging me with him like a chained prophet. The fire cracked low, casting his face in shards of orange and black. I read while he drank, one eye on me, the other lost in some battlefield memory. Each page we translated peeled back more of the empire. Bribes, blackmail, assassinations ordered from behind cathedral doors. The railroad wasn't built on steel. It was stitched with blood. "You see it now, preacher?" he asked, voice frayed. "The war never ended. It just changed uniforms." I said nothing. I couldn't speak around the taste of ash in my mouth. The next page cut deeper. A name I knew, Brother Caldwell. My mentor. The man who sent me west with God's work in my hands and blood on his collar. His name circled in red ink, beside numbers that told of payouts and silence. My heart kicked against my ribs. "He was one of them," I whispered. The fugitive leaned in, nodding slowly. They buried truth behind pulpits, took faith, turned it into freight. Thunder cracked across the canyon, low and mean. I stared up at the blackening sky and wondered what hell looked like, because I was beginning to think it wore a collar and held a Bible like mine. We weren't alone. A figure stood atop the canyon rim, still as judgment, framed in lightning. My captor rose instantly, revolver cocked, eyes scanning the dark. "Drayton's men," he muttered. I felt my gut twist. The fugitive turned to me, voice low. "You keep translating. If I go down, this book still burns them." But my hands had gone cold, and the words on the page swam. Somewhere between thunder and fear, I realized something awful. This ledger wasn't just history. It was a hit list. And every second I read it, I moved closer to the end of mine. The first shot snapped past my ear, close enough to singe thought. He returned fire, shouting curses that echoed like war drums. I hit the ground hard, arms wrapped around the ledger like it was holy writ. Dust sprayed with each blast, the air thick with cordite and fear. Shadows danced along the canyon walls as muzzle flashes turned night into brief glimpses of violence. He moved like a man who'd fought too long to fear dying. I just lay there, shaking, praying not for salvation, but for silence. "Don't you stop reading," he yelled through the chaos. The book trembled in my grip. So did my soul. He was hit, shoulder torn, bleeding down to his belt. He gritted his teeth and shoved the revolver toward me. "Cover me." My hands were made for psalms, not pistols. But I took it. His blood soaked into my sleeve as I tore a strip from my robe to bind him. "You're wasting scripture," he muttered, smirking through the pain. I almost laughed. Almost. He slumped beside me, breathing ragged. "This canyon's our coffin if we don't move." I looked at the ledger. Crimson smudges where our fingers met ink. That book had the power to kill more than bullets. And we were running out of both. I flipped to a page thicker than the rest, stuck together by blood or intent. Beneath it, something shimmered faintly in the firelight. A map, hand-drawn, rail lines, depot locations, and a mark, Judah's Mile. The fugitive leaned close, his breath catching. That's where they kept the payroll. And the bodies. He wasn't smiling now, just staring at a secret someone had killed to hide. I felt the earth shift beneath me, not from tremors, but from truth. The war never ended. It just changed hands. And now, those hands were mine, whether I wanted them or not. They came quiet, Osts on horseback. No shouts, no warnings. Just the click of spurs and the soft crunch of hooves on gravel. 2 of them, rifles slung low, eyes scanning like vultures circling heat. We ducked behind the rocks, breath held tight in our throats. The fugitive cocked the Colt with his good hand, blood soaking his side. I clutched the ledger, heart hammering like it wanted to escape my ribs. He whispered, "If they find us, don't let them take it. Burn it first." I nodded. But the thought of fire touching that book made my skin crawl. There was too much sin in those pages to trust to smoke. He sent me crawling east, ledger under my robe, toward a crack in the canyon wall we'd spotted earlier. My knees scraped raw on gravel, thorns tearing at my sleeves. Each movement felt like betrayal, of God of truth, of the vow I took to never run from the broken. I glanced back once. He sat propped against the rock, revolver ready, eyes locked on the rifle glinting in the dark. "Go," he mouthed. So I went. The moon watched me like a judge, and somewhere behind me a rifle thundered. I didn't turn. I couldn't. I found the crack and slipped inside, pressed flat against red stone that radiated heat like a furnace. My breath sounded too loud. My heartbeat even louder. I opened the ledger again, trying to focus through the noise of boots crunching gravel just outside. They were close enough to smell the tobacco on their coats. The torch in my hand flickered. The ledger's last entry spoke of one final payout tomorrow. A ghost shipment. Something big. I didn't know what it meant. But Drayton did. And if he got here first, I feared the land itself would bleed. I took his horse. I didn't want to. I told myself it was survival, but the truth stung worse. Dawn cracked the sky open in golden blood as I rode hard toward Judah's Mile. The wind screamed past, tearing at my collar, dust biting my face like penance. The ledger was strapped to my chest, pages fluttering with every gallop. I didn't know if he lived. I couldn't look back. The canyon narrowed behind me like a throat closing shut. I rode toward truth, toward fire, toward a name that turned God's silence into thunder, Drayton. And I didn't know if I was coming to end him, or join him. Judah's Mile wasn't on any map, but the ledger had led me true. Nestled in the basin like a tick on the skin of the earth, sat a hidden depot. Stone, smoke, and silence. No flags. No signs. Just rail lines branching out like veins from a black heart. I crouched on the ridge, the ledger open on my lap, decoding the final entries. It was here. Why? The blood gold. The buried names. Drayton's last secret. And then I saw him. A figure in a dark coat stepping out of the office. Tall. Calm. The kind of calm that only monsters wear. My hands began to shake again. I wasn't ready. But neither, I prayed, was he. I walked through the depot doors like a man walking into his own confession. He looked up from a stack of papers. William Drayton. Perfectly pressed silver cufflinks, not a speck of dust on him. The kind of man untouched by the war he funded. I threw the ledger on his desk. Your sins are accounted for. His eyes never flickered. But the guards behind him reached for their pistols. You should have burned that book, Father, he said, voice like molasses laced with arsenic. Now you'll hang with the rest of us. I smiled, though my knees wobbled. Then I guess we hang in true. The first shot shattered glass and time. I dropped behind the desk as smoke and thunder exploded around me. Drayton's men moved fast, but not fast enough. One fell, gasping through a red mist. I don't remember pulling the trigger. I remember the weight, the sound, the silence that followed. The ledger had been thrown open in the blast, pages flapping like judgment. Drayton had vanished in the chaos. I crawled toward the door, heart thudding like war drums. Every breath was smoke. Every thought, fire. And still the damn book whispered names like ghosts in my ears. He ran. Through the yard, past crates and rails and spilled secrets. The sun rose behind him like a witness, stretching his shadow long and thin across the dust. I chased, pistol in hand, boots slamming against iron and gravel. He turned once, just once, his face a mask of disbelief. That a man of God would hunt like this. But I wasn't chasing justice. I was chasing closure. The train that held the final payout sat ahead, gold bars glittering inside like the devil's offering. He reached for the ladder. I raised the gun. He stopped. We stood there, two men built by lies, and only one bullet left between us. I didn't shoot. He climbed the train and vanished with the smoke. Minutes later, the fire took the car. The gold. The records. Maybe even the devil himself. I stood on the ridge until the sky bled into dusk again. The ledger finally closed in my hands. It would not be burned. Not yet. Somewhere beneath those blood-red cliffs, the dead were still owed their reckoning. And I was no longer just a man of faith.